I mean, there's also like sea snakes. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's water snakes, which are also the snakes of the sea. But for sure,
I want a T-shirt that says "Eels, the snakes."
So, so this has so it's not just a 6/6 trample. It has embalm for 3 and a green. So, is this the only embalm creature that has an embalm cost of less than what the mana cost
I
is?
think it is actively.
yeah.
So this is a throwback to Roar of the Worm.
Yeah,
which,
this is a reverse Roar of the Worm, right? No, this is
No,
still,
no,
it's
it's
still
about the
right.
same.
It's still right.
So Roar of the Worm was back in Odyssey, and it was a 7 mana, put a 6/6 token into play, and then it had a flashback for 4. So you'd often want to discard that to a wild mongrel or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. Which, interesting enough, we have a wild mongrel.
Yeah, we do,
We have Noose
actually.
Constrictor in this format.
We almost have an arrogant worm in whatchamacallit, the
The vampire,
five,
right?
Yeah, the 5/3 haster. Yeah,
So
yeah. So
you could play that deck almost.
almost.
So, yeah, if you have a way to discard this early, you can just play it as a 4 mana 6/6 trample, which isn't bad. I mean, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but I think it's certainly playable.
And again, looking at some of the red cards we looked at, like the 4/3 for 2 mana, like this is the kind of card you're fine discarding, and then your next turn you play Ronus, and then turn 4 you embalm this. Like, so this card I think it fits into it. Like, it's pretty vanilla. The fact that the embalm token dies like Fatal Push is not exciting, but
Or even like the repulse card
oh
that you talked
god,
about.
oh man, you're gonna feel so good. Like you can get disallowed like on the embalm trigger, which is like upsetting too. So
Yep, these are things.
Yeah, I don't know that this one would ultimately be good enough, but like it might be. I don't know. Like it's very borderline to
6/6
me.
with trample. Whenever you get to play it for 4, that's gonna feel super pushed. Like it's gonna feel good. It just the format may be ready for it, so it'll be interesting. People will play it. I think people will definitely play it.
Yeah. All right.
So
All right, let's talk about that sweet new ride at Disneyland. I
you Octavia Orangutans,
mean, what?
Viridian Shaman,
No.
oh
Like,
Manglehorn.
The Matterhorn.
I know. I was referencing other cards that were like this.
Oh, okay.
Poor
Dave is
Dave.
actively dying. So Manglehorn, correct.
Yeah, so it's green and 2 generic for a 2/2 creature beast. Though granted, this kind of looks like a Minotaur. Anyways, when Manglehorn enters the battlefield, you made a short target artifact, and then artifacts your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped. So just another in this line of green cards that could be main deckable. You got a sweet 2-for-1 on things like Heart of Kirin. Technically does stop the Saheeli combo, though
Yep.
a 2/2 beast is not exactly a stopgap like for that deck. But because all of the tokens that Saheeli makes are artifacts in addition to their types, they will enter the battlefield tapped. So this is just a nice thing for the format to have, and a nice little thing for green decks to have. It's also nice because you still have Traverse in the format, so this is a good bullet to sort of keep in your deck.
Yeah. I mean, this card feels like they added the second line of text on it. Like after they
very
saw,
late, yeah.
they're like, "Oh man, Aetherworks Marvel is really good. Let's try to make something to fight that. Oh, let's just add artifacts enter the battlefield tapped, so your opponent will not get to activate their Marvel the first turn they play it, which is huge. And it allows you to play this in a more proactive manner. Like you don't have to hold it. You could
Yeah.
just run it out there in turn 3, even if you're not killing anything, and then you know that you're not just going to like lose to a Marvel and then activate and they get something. So it's pretty good. I think this will definitely see modern play. So it's the right mana cost, right? So it's 3, so you can get it off a collective company.
Yeah.
Really good against certain decks that will pop up in modern. So like Affinity gets slowed down a ton by this. So like not only are you blowing up something, a lot of their artifacts coming into play tapped. It is good against the Cart Clan Ironworks deck that we talked
It
about.
certainly is.
Makes their Mox Opals. They're not able to loop their Mox Opals as efficiently as they otherwise would be able to.
Correct.
What do you guys-
We will discuss it when we talk about the next card.
But yeah, I think this is a super good card, and I think it'll see a lot of standard and modern play.
Yeah, I can certainly see that.
And I want to know what you.
Okay, so Mike is currently looking up pictures of the Serpapard and they're all horrifying. This creature is like an abomination. And I know this is I know this is a podcast, not a visual medium, but all dang, go tweet that out.
Yeah, I'm going to tweet this picture out.
Oh yeah, it's horrifying. Of course, we're talking about prowling Serpapard, and
This is Dave's card.
This is Dave's card, but we've already talked about this card before as well. I feel like.
So I brought it back on here because when that was an early card. Dave, do you want to remind people what it does?
Yeah. Prowling Serpapard. It's 1 green for a 4/3 cat snake. It cannot be countered, and creature spells you control can't be countered.
So we said when we looked at this card, like, LOL, like, what counter spells are people worried about? And then we got Censor and Essence Scatter. And while I don't think those are enough to print a card that this is this hateful against like counter spells,
whoa, we need to balance it out.
But I do think that this card makes a little bit more sense. If the blue control deck does feel oppressive, having this card in the format might be helpful.
I think the fact that like this turns on Ronus too, like being a 4/3 is pretty relevant.
Yeah.
And green.
Turns out, yes.
Turns out. So yeah, I mean, I really don't know like ultimately like, how much play this will see. You know, maybe if the blue decks are like super good, then maybe you'd want this. Though it's still just like a 4/3 for 3 isn't that exciting. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, the fact that it turns on Ronus, which we'll talk about here in a sec, it's not irrelevant.
Oh no, it's very very pertinent. So Ronus, the Indomitable.
Yeah, Ronus the Indomitable is a green and 2 generic for a 5/5 legendary creature god, Death Touch, indestructible because again, why it needs Death Touch, whatever. It can attack or block unless you control another creature with power 4 or greater, like we just mentioned. Then it has an activated ability, green and 2 generic. Another turret creature gets +2/+0 engage trample on a turn. I will say, I said last week I compared this kind of to Nylea. Like, I still think the design is kind of boring, but this card I think is very good. I still stand by the fact I think this card is very, very good.
Yeah, I think this is the best god in the set, which, like I said last week, but yeah, I mean, just it's not going to be very difficult to turn this on, and even if you can't, like, you could probably get it turned on just by activating the ability once, you know, on some random creature that you have.
Yeah.
The fact that it works so well with Heart of Kirin, I think, also is pretty insane. So, yeah, I expect this one to be the most played and the best god, even if it has like the lamest ability, it's like Death Touch on an indestructible creature without trample. But
yeah, whatever.
And it can't give itself trample, which kind of stinks. But,
no,
you know,
again, just like Nylea.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Two gods separated by planes.
Still the best. So like, yeah, if it could give itself trample, it'd just be like, oh god,
it'd be busto, right?
Everything is busted. Yeah.
Just more Serpapard pictures. Very disturbing. All right. But yeah, I mean, like, Ronus, like, he'll see play. Like, he does what green wants. It's really easy. Like, we've discussed multiple cards in green and red that both enable this card to be, you know, there, including Hazoret, which is kind of what we have been seeing a lot of people talk about. Is like they're the 1-2 punch. So they're out there enabling each other. Well, at least one enables the other one, which is the important part, really. And then eventually the other one catches up if you aren't heck bent yet. So, but yeah, like these are the kind of cards that make people think that there could potentially be a, you know, red-green deck that still emerges and is powerful enough to, you know, stand on its own within a format, regardless of what other, you know, decks do exist. So we'll see if that stands to be the case. But, you know, these cards are pretty good. So I pretty much think that sums up Ronus. Let's talk about this Shafet, I'm going to say.
Yes,
Shafet Monitor.
Shafet Monitor. It's 5 and a green for a 6/5 lizard. But honestly, that's not why you're playing this card. It has cycling for 3 and a green. So it's 4 mana to cycle it. When you cycle it, you may search your library for basic land card or a desert card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So this is similar to Crozen Tusker, which was originally an Onslaught, which was a very playable card. And this is worse in one way in that it costs one more to cycle it than Crozen Tusker did, but actually better in a couple other ways. To actually cast it, it's 1 mana less. So, sometimes you'll cast this card. Also puts the land directly into play, so it ramps you, and also gives you the option of getting a desert, which we have a couple deserts in this set. I do have a question. Can you get actual desert with this card?
Yeah.
Have they errated that so it's land desert?
It is a land desert. Desert was the first subtype.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Oh man, I learned.
There you go.
So yeah, desert. You can play this in modern and get a actual
Get
desert.
an actual desert.
Yeah, because that was time shifted.
Correct.
One interesting thing that you can do with this, if you have, I don't know if we're going to talk about it later, but one of the lands.
Sunscorched Desert is the one that deals damage.
So Sunscorched Desert reads, it's a land that adds a colorless, and when it enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to target player. So you could actually break up the Saheeli combo if you have 4 mana up and a Shuffit monitor by getting a desert and dealing 1 to your opponent, redirecting to Saheeli when it's out of 1 loyalty. So I don't know if that. I mean, it's relevant. I just don't know how good that is. But it's something to think about, I guess.
So when you cycle this card, it's like you get all the text that's on a Psalm Simulacrum, but none of the body.
Yeah. No, I do think this is a good card. And Mike, you mentioned like if there's a New Perspectives combo deck, this will likely be a part of it since it allows you to gain mana.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you're going off. So.
I do also want to mention, I love the reminder text that says, do this before you draw, because I remember that always being the question for Crozen Tusker. I was like,
yeah, do we get the land first? Or you often wanted to get the land first, so you
Right.
would thin your deck out
So it's like,
bit,
just tells you, like, yeah, you do this first. So, all right. Then, is this our last green card? It is. Vizier of the Menagerie, which is really cool, because it's like this like Cobra with like a falcon and like a lion and like a gazelle and a scarab.
So it's like a really nice cobra. Like it's like a non-threatening cobra.
So you remember that movie, like We Bought a Zoo? That Naga done bought a zoo.
So this is the Matt Damon of Nagas.
Correct.
Then. All right.
Correct.
Good. So Matt Damon of the Menagerie is a green and 3 generic for a 3/4 Naga cleric. You may look at the top card of your library. You may do this at any time. You may cast the top card of your library if it's a creature card. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast creature spells. That's a lot of text.
So when I first read this card, I thought it was just you played with the top card revealed.
No, you just look
this
at
is
it.
much better because you don't have to let your opponent know it's there.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a little bit more annoying because you have to keep looking.
Oh no, I want to do that. I like me a rummaging wizard.
Wasn't it like there was a Sphinx and Zenda card that just said like it was like 5/5 Shroud, and you could look at the top card of your library. So you're like, in response, look. I mean,
you can just response.
No, you can just look at it and be like, you can do whatever. I'm just looking at this
I don't
card.
have priority right now. I'm just looking. So people have been really excited about this card. I'm not as high on this card. Like, it has a lot of cool text on it, but you've really got to do some work to make it better. Like, people say, like, oh, this is Courser. This is not Courser. Like, this is not Courser Crufix. It does nothing anywhere similar to, like, as good as Courser Crufix was. Now, I will say, I have seen some people brewing with this card and As Foretold, which we talked about earlier, and that is kind of sweet, because then you can use the extra spell you get each turn to sort of cast these creatures, and if you have some flash creatures in your deck, then you can do it on both turns. And the idea of, like, casting, like, Avacyn on your opponent's turn from the top of your library sounds really cool. But beyond that, it feels like a lot of work to get this card to do anything, and it's just a 3/4 vanilla body. So, I don't know. I'm not very excited about this card.
I think this card's pretty good, actually. So all of the cards that we've seen in the past that have the ability to play cards off the top of your deck have been playable in some capacity. So
I'm not saying it's not playable. I just don't think it's as good as any of the other ones we've seen, even.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely recently. Like, I guess. So when I think about those types of cards, we have like Future Sight was kind of the original one, which allows you to play anything off the top, so you can play lands or spells. We had Oracle Moldiah, which lets you play lands off the top and lets you play multiple lands, which was an awesome card. Of course, Recruitfix, which you mentioned, lets you play lands off the top. This one you actually have to pay, and it's only creatures. So obviously you want to put this in a deck full of creatures, so you have a lot of hits. But I mean, it's still like drawing cards. Like if you're playing it off the top,
a much lower percentage of drawing cards
Sure.
than like Courser or Oracle or any of these other effects. So I think it's fine, but I think like you have to pay so much mana to get here. I hope that your deck can do that.
I do think this card is best buds with the new Nissa that we'll talk about here.
Oh, that's definitely
like
sure.
the synergy
That's
between
for
those
sure.
cards is unbelievable. So I don't know. I think this is a really good card. I just don't know where it fits right now.
Sure.
I think if it was like a 2 and a green for a 2/3 with the same ability, it would have been modern
better.
playable,
Yeah,
because
much,
you
much
could
better.
get it with Collected Company and like there's a decent amount of decks that they're playing 30 plus creatures. So, but yeah, I do think this card is pretty good, and I guess time will tell how much play it sees in Standard.
Yep.
All right, so that's green.
Yeah, it's green. Green did get some very important spells. Getting that cycling artifact removal spell, I think, is huge, and that actually adds a lot of power to green. In all honesty, and there's some misses, I think, as far as green creature rise, but you also have the best god. You have
Yeah, I think that's
Ronus,
true.
which is pretty big. It's a pretty big deal. Ronus is a pretty big deal. So yeah, I think overall green did all right.
Yeah, like you said, best god. I think it got some good role players.
And not to mention, I think green like overall has been like a color that has been fairly good for the past few like sets, if not blocks. So it just seems like they haven't stopped being good. So it was all right. All right. Oh man, we're closing on the end here. We got multicolored next, so let's go ahead and move into that. Okay, we're on the multicolor. We're gonna make it through, get through all these cards, and then be done for the night. So first up, we have Enigma Drake. This Drake is so mysterious.
Yeah, Enigma Drake is 1 blue-red for a star 4 Drake. Has flying, and Enigma Drake's power is equal to the number of instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard. So this is similar to the one we got in Theros.
There was a
Born of the
Chimera,
Gods.
right?
Yeah, there was a Chimera that is a star 3 with flying and trample. So this one,
and it was a flying goat.
yeah, this one trades off the trample for an extra point of toughness, which is relevant. I don't, I guess losing the trample, I guess you don't get to trample over like spirits or whatever. But
I think that there's enough ways to, like I said, I think that fourth toughness is really important. We talked about it right at the beginning with the first angel, and I think that fourth toughness is important. If you look at all the cycling, especially all the blue instants, we have cycling and blue, in that color, and then again like Drakehaven, I feel like there's definitely this lends credence to a blue-red version of that deck, and this is a solid threat that just like continues to get better throughout. Like if you draw one off the top later in the game, like you're talking about something that has just like straight up game-ending potential, with one attack. So yeah, it can be chump blocked for sure, and it's it's just a blank flyer, but I think it has the potential to be pretty solid.
can I just say this art is really sweet on this card too? I think it's an awesome foil.
You mean the Drake doing the Karate Kid?
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's got the sun in the back, and then it has, like,
Oh, I know.
hieroglyphics in
But
the
he's
wings.
literally sitting on one foot on the
I
pillar.
see.
Like,
I see.
if we get a little ocean
Getting
back
ready
there.
to crane kick you in the face.
But again, this kind of card that like subtly powerful. I think. I think with Spellheart Chimera didn't really see any play. Maybe this won't either. But man, that fourth toughness makes me think that it's got a chance. And all this, and cycling. Like cycling is the thing. that also
Yeah,
helps.
yeah. All the blue cycling cards make this, like, pretty exciting.
Oh, sure.
So
Okay, next up we have another green-black, like 2/2. Hapatra.
A legend.
A legend, but Hapatra of 0 poisons.
Sorry, I was changing the color. Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons is a 2/2 for a green and a black, a legendary creature, human cleric. Whenever Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons, deals combat damage to a player, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Whenever you put a -1, or one or more -1/-1 counters on that creature, create a 1/1 green snake creature token with Death Touch. Now, you have to notice that the wording on the second part of this one is different than Nest of Scarabs. You don't get that many snakes, but they do have Death Touch, so there's a pretty good trade-off here. So I find this card to be awkward.
Yeah.
And I've encountered it in testing a little bit. And if you're playing against a deck that doesn't have like a creature on turn 1 or 2, then you have to target Petra when it attacks.
You don't have to.
Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have. I'm sorry, but like you may. Which I'm sorry, I have to is incorrect. But you may. But like, so it doesn't do anything by itself, or you make it a 1/1 and get a snake. And then you kill snakes to get snakes. I don't like. It feels really weird because by itself it isn't doing enough. Now you can play with other creatures and put things on your own creatures, but if your opponent does have creatures, I don't know how you're getting in to get more counters because Petra has to deal the damage.
Yeah.
I don't understand this card. I don't think.
How does the Vizier of Poisons not have Death Touch? Answer me that.
The snakes have the Death Touch. It just holds the snakes.
She just makes the poison. She doesn't
Use
she
the
doesn't-
poison?
She doesn't use it. Yeah.
She could, but she doesn't.
If this card had
because-
Death Touch, it would. I would like it more.
I don't know what this card does. I don't feel like it does anything. And
Not especially when there's like
Grim
two,
Flayer.
like Grim Flayer
Flayer,
and the Snake.
Winding Constrictor, which is already part of a deck. Even like Sylvan Advocate is still probably more
Yeah.
exciting than this. So I don't know.
I do think like if you're gonna play this card, I think it'd be easier to look at it like a Nest of Scarabs, and not like, oh man, I really have to hit with this creature. I don't think you have to hit with it. Like just like having effects that give -1, and then
it's
just
very
getting the Death
possible.
Touch Snake. Like getting a Death Touch Snake is a big deal.
And that's very possible.
So-
That's true. But
I think it's better when you look at it through that lens. But I still think like it's just competing with so many things right now. It's
yeah,
just like,
I
I don't know.
not well positioned. I don't think.
Yeah, that's kind of where I would place it as well. So, I think the card looks cool, has cool art, and I think the foil of it like is going to look bomb. But other than that, meh. All right, let's talk about a Planeswalker. We haven't done that in a while. So
Darn, I don't get this one.
I got one.
So Dave, take it away.
All right, we have Nissa, Steward of Elements. Mana cost of X green blue, so it enters the battlefield with X loyalty on it. She has a +2 of Scry 2, a 0 ability of look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card or a creature card with converted mana cost converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of loyalty counters on Nissa, Steward of Elements, you may put that card onto the battlefield. And has a -6 of untap up to 2 target lands you control. They become 5/5 elemental creatures with flying and haste until end of turn. They're still lands. So this is the first scalable Planeswalker that we've seen with an X in the mana cost. Like I said, obviously it's better in a creature-heavy deck because it allows you to use that middle 0 ability to good effect. I don't know. I'm a fan of this card just because I like that you could play it, as a 3-mana Planeswalker if you wanted to. Then you could, scry, +2 to scry 2. Or if you draw it late, you can just cast it and then immediately use the -6.
Mm-hmm.
Which we haven't had a Planeswalker yet that is just, you can just immediately ultimate it the turn you play it without some kind of outside help.
I mean, the only other one is like Gideon Lives in a car technically.
Yeah, I guess, but this is more like this can end the game.
Yeah,
like,
this is
in 2
more of a
turns.
splashy effect that we expect from the large minus ability of a Planeswalker. So yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah, but man, yeah, I like she doesn't protect herself, which is like kind of a bummer. But I don't know. I think this card's pretty exciting.
The card looks cool. I mean, it's I don't know. The ability to not protect itself is definitely a downside. You do have to figure out a way to protect it in some facet, but it feels like I want to play this in like a deck that can just have a lot of mana. And even if you like you're playing a big mana deck and you play it on 3 and like just get a scry, like sometimes in those ramp decks, like just getting a scry 2 is like really powerful. So it feels like that's where you'd want it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I like this card, but it feels fairly underwhelming. So, but we'll see. I mean, there's plenty of decks that could take take this effect and probably use it to good use. So.
Yeah, and like we David said before, like the Vizier of Menagerie.
It works well with this. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, you can scry 2 to set up a creature on top. You can know if you have a hit on top of your deck before you do the 0 ability. Like,
I mean, you can also play this
Pretty
in
nice.
4 colors Sahili, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And get a lot of scries per turn. And man, that deck already sees a ton of cards.
Yeah.
And
has
really
has
churn
a
through.
decent amount of consistency, so
Yeah.
it's like cool.
again, don't target this with a Felidar Guardian.
That is
Do
true.
not do that.
Unless you want it to die.
Yeah, unless you
It
just need a
is.
planeswalker
I will have to
for
say, like this
Valerian.
card does have a huge downside in the fact that cast out is in this format.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, oh, you actually just killed
It's
killed my
gone.
Nissa.
It's just gone
It's
forever.
just dead. So that is a huge downside for this card. But I think it's cool. Like I think it's a cool
Yeah,
card.
I agree.
I think it's funny that if you play something like Oath of Gideon, you can play this for 2 mana.
You can. It is the second 2-mana planeswalker.
Yeah, the secret 2 mana planeswalker. I just want to say, like as a whole, I think the planeswalkers that we got in this set, even though they're recurring characters that we've seen before, I think they did a good job of giving them unique abilities and things that we haven't seen before. Like Gideon having like the you can't lose clause, and like Nissa having an X and a casting cost. Like Liliana feels more generic, but
It's probably
Also
the
is-
best one.
it's probably the best one. But like I like that they didn't have any of those like cookie cutter planeswalkers that we've seen. That's like +1, some kind of
Draw
card
a card.
advantage, minus something, kill a creature. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we didn't get any of those, so I'll give them credit for that. But I wish we had something new as far as like a new type,
Yeah.
new planeswalker. But
Or just like someone we haven't seen in a while.
yeah,
Gothwatch 2017.
Yeah, seriously. Bring him back. Anyways. All right, let's talk about Samut. Right? Samut, Voice of Dissent. This is a vomit of keywords.
Gosh, so many.
So this is red and a green and a 3 generic for a 3/4 legendary creature human warrior that has flash, double strike, vigilance, haste. Other creatures you control have haste, and then pay a white to tap it to untap another target creature. So this is your exert enabler. Like this brings the team together. You can flash it in at the end of turn, untap another creature, untap, play another creature that now has haste, attack, exert something, untap that creature that you exerted. Like this all sounds really sweet, but you also paid 5 mana for a 3/4, which is not that sweet.
well, it has double strike though, so you could look at it like a 6/4,
You certainly could,
6/4 haste.
but that's not how it hits a player, or like I guess like how it hits through a creature. But because then it could just die to anything that has 4 toughness. I don't know. I'm so. Does anything with this many keywords just have to be worth a look, or
Probably.
is this like a desperate plea from like Wizards? Please play this.
They just like kept adding keywords to it. They're like, oh, can we give a flying? And like, no, it's a human, so no.
This card feels out of place in this set.
It really does. Red green doesn't feel like this card.
Well, it's red green with a white
It's
activated
Naya,
ability.
Um,
That doesn't make any sense.
It's all the exert colors.
Yeah, I get it.
exactly.
I guess it's
Yeah.
like, it's trying to like, you can untap a creature. I get what it's trying to do, but it just, when I first saw this, it was just like, was this out of like some weird set? Like this looks like it was out of like Invasion or something like that. It's like, you know what I mean? The off-color activated ability.
I think the real problem for this card is that its best friend is Glorybringer, while also fighting for
Same slot.
same slot, and that's its biggest issue because you're going to play 4 Glorybringers probably before you play one of this card.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
But
This card's weird.
maybe it is like a one of, and it's like the sweetest one of like you've ever seen.
Sure.
But this card feels weird.
I think, I don't know. Giving all the creatures you control have haste is pretty good.
Super
though.
powerful.
Yeah.
Man, could you imagine opening this in limited though?
Oof. Yeah.
I mean,
it's pretty good.
you hope you get the first picket and then like
Oh,
build
yeah.
craft your deck around it because like
That's
getting it, I don't think you're like really hoping you open it pack 3. So next up we have what?
Well, we have Temer. I misspelled that? Temet. It's my apologies.
Temet.
But
Who's Temer?
Tamer. We did talk about this card a fair amount. So can we just say, does it feel any stronger now after we see Embalm?
No.
I don't think it does, actually.
No.
So
Unfortunately, I can't think of any like Embalm creatures that I'm like, except for like the Angel, but it's like you don't need any help with that or anything. So
maybe this is a wait for the next set kind of thing.
yeah, or like it could just be something for you to build a EDH deck around or something like that. It could just like not necessarily have any standard constructed implications, or there could be more goodies waiting for us in Hour of Devastation.
Fair enough.
So
Wayward Servant.
Wayward Servant. So it costs black, white. It's a 2/2 zombie. Whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So, I mean, this is definitely an incentive to go, maybe play a little bit of white in your black zombie deck.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw this card too, I thought of, do we have any ways to kind of dump a bunch of zombies and play at once? Maybe some type of like mass, like a Rally the Ancestors type deal.
Dark Salvation.
Dark Salvation.
Black XX. Put X 2/2 zombie tokens into play, and target creature gets -X equal to the number of zombies you control.
Oh yeah, that's a thing. I
That's the
forgot
thing.
about that card.
Mm-hmm.
That card actually might see. That definitely gets played in the zombie deck, right? You just play it for black.
It's very possible, yeah.
Yeah, but I was thinking more of like if there's like a rally type
I know what
card
you're talking
that that returns a bunch of zombies, you can drain them for a bunch. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is it's a solid card.
On the dead triggering multiple amalgams feels close.
Yeah, this card feels like along with the white exile spell, feels like an encouragement to pick up white as a secondary color to your zombie deck, and maybe like the deck ends up being 3 colors and like plays amalgams, so it's like an Esper deck, which could be it. But then I don't feel like your mana base is aggressive, enough. So maybe you're just sort of more of a mid-range deck with these sort of like drain elements in it. I don't know. Like I said, like I don't know how you build the deck, but it's. I think this card is certainly interesting. And again, maybe you end up not playing this card, but definitely feels like a heavy suggestion to consider white, along with the exile spell, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Start finish.
Now we're going to go to a couple Aftermath cards. We're not touching on a ton of them. Most of them are poop.
Most of them we are not impressed by.
They certainly could see play. I don't assume that just because we didn't talk about it doesn't mean it's like the worst card ever, but these feel fairly average. So we'll just hit on a few of them. We'll start with start to finish. Start is a white and 2 generic for an instant. Create 2 1/1 white warrior creature tokens with vigilance. And finish is a sorcery that is Aftermath, black and 2 generic. As an additional cost to cast finish, sacrifice a creature to start target creature. So you get a 3 mana Bone Splitters attached to a 3 mana Rally, or not Rally the Peasants.
Raise the Alarm.
So inflated costs of 2 commons to make 1 uncommon, which is weird.
To be fair, the tokens have vigilance.
This is fair. I sound really negative on this card, but I will say we've mentioned already that there might be sort of a black-white based sacrifice deck if we're talking about the stockpile we mentioned before and Bantu. And this card, you get to play these creatures with vigilance, or these tokens as an instant, so you can end a turn, do this, and then you have 1/1s that you can use to kill a creature. And having finish at 3 mana is not efficient, but tacking on just a clean removal spell to the back of this card, I think makes it pretty playable.
It also enables your Bantu to attack.
Very true.
But yeah, I think the start being at instant speed is what is like, okay.
What allows it,
we can play this card because this is instant speed. This is a worse was that spirit card.
Midnight Haunting.
But instant speed is important.
Man, you remember Martyr Charm that made like first strike? You could add first strike.
Man.
You could just get them.
Only we know the glory that is Martyr Charm. I never really caught on in the format, but man.
Hey, I remember when I mulled the 4 in that open at Indy and beat the red aggressive deck because I mulled the 4 and kept 2 lands and 2 Martyr Charms, and then drew the 3rd land, and he kept trying to attack, and then I just made guys that had first strike and made guys that had first strike. It was great.
All right, spring to mind is the next one.
spring to mind. So
Sounds like a soap brand.
That's Irish Spring to mind.
all right, so the front half, Spring, is 2 generic and a green sorcery. Search your library for basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and search your library. So it's rampant growth for 3 mana. Aftermath side, Mind is 4 blue. Can only cast it from the graveyard. Draw 2 cards.
This is
Feels very average.
Well, it's
but-
one of the only ones that's an instant on the backside, though, right?
Correct.
Is it the only one that's an
I don't
instant
know
on
if
the
it's
backside?
the only one, but I
Yeah.
know it's like one of the only ones.
Yeah.
Well,
A lot
I
of them
think it
are-
is actually the only one.
Yeah, a lot of them are instants on the front side, sorceries on the back side. So this one, I mean, both effects aren't amazing, but we did mention, like, we don't have a lot of good ramp options. So if you're playing some kind of like, blue-green ramp deck, you might want this card. You know, Spring is a decent enough card, and Mind letting you refill a little bit in late game.
Yeah, mine could just be really good late game. I don't think
just
it's
like hangs out in the graveyard, and if you have time to cast it, you do.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. It
I'm
feels
not super
underpowered.
impressed by it, but
Yeah.
it is something that I feel like could be a part of that blue green deck if it does exist. So
Yeah.
it's a maybe.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Cut to Ribbons, which I think we've extolled on a little bit here as being one of the better, if not the best one. You have red and a generic for a sorcery that cut deals 4 damage to our creature, and an Aftermath is Ribbons, which is black X. Each opponent loses X life, and that's a sorcery. So you get a Flame Slash that's a little overcosted, like Armisium Mortars, if you will, and then you get this backside of a card that can kind of just end the game. And I think there's definitely going to be some decks that are just looking for this effect. You know, maybe a Grixis-style control deck that can use both halves, and even fairly aggressive decks that, you know, just want to like, kill a creature and then have a couple points of burn sitting in the graveyard.
Yeah, if you're like already a deck that's playing Unlicensed Disintegration as a way to deal like damage, and then it's just like, oh, just casually have this other removal spell that also has reach on it. So I do feel like this is definitely one of the more playable Aftermath cards.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to see like how good the sorcery speed 4 damage to a creature is in the format.
That's fair.
Yes, yes, that is very important. But yeah, I mean, it does feel like it four damage. You know, we've talked about 4 toughness being the key. This deals with those sorts of creatures. Sorcery speed is difficult, but it can kill a Felidar Guardian if they cast it without having a Sealy out beforehand, which does happen. So. I think like comparatively speaking, like both sides are usable, and pretty good card.
I will say this card seems like it'd be a lot better if the Saheeli combo ends up getting banned.
Yes,
Sure.
This card definitely stands to gain a lot.
All right.
No, we just got to Heaven to Earth is the last multicolor card.
Okay. So the front side, Heaven is X and a green for an instant. It's pretty important. Heaven deals X damage to each creature with flying. And then the Aftermath side is Earth, which is X red, can only cast from the graveyard. And it deals X damage to each creature without flying. So this one might not seem great on the surface, but I think this one has some potential. If Drakehaven decks become a thing, the Heaven side of this is going to be pretty important for clearing out those Drakes.
Absolutely.
And also, like, if you just want the Earthquake side, or Earth, I guess, it's not that hard to just, pay a green just to put it in your graveyard, You can just have XB0 on the front side. So you go end turn, I'll just pay a green to put it in the graveyard.
Yeah, and then you get a Sweeper on the other side.
And then, you can untap and then cast, Earth for however much you need.
Welcome to Earth. And I was saying before, like, if there's this red-green God deck, right, where you have, Ronus and Hazaret, Earth starts to feel pretty scary because you think you have blockers, and they're like, oh, nope, Earth. And then they attack you for 10 because their gods aren't dying. So, yeah, I think that's a card that I think I overlooked. I was like, okay, I get it, Hurricane and Earthquake together. But actually, Hurricane and Earthquake together doesn't sound that bad now that you think, talk about it. So
Yeah, I mean, especially since like it's a 1-2 punch. You have the instant speed front half, and then the sorcery speed second half. But like they work in tandem. And it is a card that you definitely look at and go like meh, but then you're like, wait, there is something more to it. I mean, it feels just like the sideboard card. I don't know if that is. I don't know if you want to put it main deck or not, but
I don't know, but it seems like a good sideboard card.
oh, for sure. Way better than Gruul Charm, right?
Man, probably. Sad times.
Sad times. All right. So multicolored, lots of good stuff. I mean, the Aftermath cards are pretty interesting, but not a lot of really caught our eye. So let's go ahead and
well, they catch your eye, but it's not a good.
not for the reasons you want.
Not that this card is playable kind of way.
abominations?
Yeah, not for the reasons you want
I
necessarily.
feel like small children will cry when they open Aftermath cards in packs. Like, oh my god, this isn't a Magic card.
I will say, I'll enjoy like seeing drafters like turn cards sideways again. It's like, oh, I know what that person has.
Yep.
Or I know of one.
Yeah, exactly.
They have one of those.
So moving to artifacts. I didn't put any of the monuments on this list. I think some people have argued they're kind of close. I don't actively think they are. So if you're really excited about a monument, we didn't talk about it. I'm sorry. I guess we'll start quickly here with Oracle's Vault. We talked about it a little bit. It was one of the first cards we've seen. 4 mana for an artifact. It has 2. Tap it, exile top card of your library. Until the turn, you may cast that. You may play that card. Put a brick counter on Oracle's Vault, and then tap it, exile top card of your library. Until the turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. Activate this ability only if there are 3 or more brick counters on Oracle's Vault. So you build the vault, and the brick counters are kind of cool.
Yeah, and in the next card, the Pyramid of the Pantheon has sort of a similar brick theme.
This is true. This one you pay 2 to add a mana to it costs 1, and you pay 2 to add a mana of any color to your mana pool and put a brick counter on it, and then you can add 3 mana to your mana pool of any color if you have 3 or more bricks on it. I actually think Pyramid of the Pantheon is more playable than the Oracle's Vault. I think
It's cheaper. Yeah.
Well, it's cheaper, and like Oracle's Vault is just competing with like Aetherworks Marvel. Like, what does the Vault do that Aetherworks Marvel isn't just better at? Honestly,
Yeah.
Yeah, Oracle's Vault just seems overcosted and just slow.
yeah, I feel like Commander would probably love this card, but yeah, I don't know. But Pyramid of the Pantheon, I think, feels a lot closer. Like it's expensive mana fixing. Like it's a 2 mana helix essentially, where you can filter your lands. But once you get 3 bricks on there, then you essentially built your own Gilded Lotus. And that may not be important right now in the standard format. It is a nice bit of ramp if you really want it. But based on what we've seen of like Nicol Bolas Planeswalkers in the past, we didn't get one in this set. We get one in the next one. An artifact that adds 3 mana of the color that you need may be kind of important to casting large dragon god pharaohs.
If you played any amount of cube with Gilded Lotus and high mana planeswalkers, then it's pretty good. Now this isn't Gilded Lotus.
No,
but
it's not that good, and it takes
think
some
it's-
time and investment to
Yeah.
really get it to where you want to go.
Right.
But I do think the payoff is close to being good enough.
So these cards have really interesting interactions with another card that was kind of weird in Aether Revolt, which is Paradox Engine.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you've played against the Paradox Engine deck, but they go fairly infinite with
Yeah.
enough mana creatures.
yeah, that's Pyramid of the Pantheon untapping to get 3 more mana.
Correct.
Seems like a good way to go.
You know what is a pretty crazy interaction with some of these do-nothing artifacts that exist as well is the Quicksmith
Mix and draw cards.
Yeah, the Quicksmith Spy. Pretty weird stuff. Pretty weird stuff that kind of happens. So like, I don't know. We get a lot of like artifacts that do well when you get to untap them. You get a lot of like creatures and stuff like that, and you just go kind of infinite here. So again, you still have the Greenbelt Rampagers, a card that you can consistently abuse and cast to enable your Paradox Engine. It's not perfect, but it is something that once it gets going, it's very can be very tricky to stop. At least game 1.
So, if they be in the Sahili combo, you could possibly think about that.
Yeah.
If not, then just forget everything
Yeah,
we
just
just
forget
said.
everything you just said.
Fact.
'cause
That's true.
Can't cast
I
Paradox.
just thought it was interesting.
No, it certainly is. It certainly is.
Next up, I think we have is it the Throne of the
It's
God
the throne,
Pharaoh.
yes. Which I don't know if Bolas needs a seat. He's a dragon.
But to be fair, they have a tail slot for him, so it's fine.
do have a tail
Yeah.
slot. You're not wrong.
So, Throne of the God Pharaoh is a 2 mana legendary artifact. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. So, obviously, you attack with your creatures. They take some extra damage.
Pretty standard. Yeah.
If you're, not wanting to attack with your creatures, maybe your opponent has some blockers or whatever. You could tap them to other things. You can, use Cryptolith Right. Add
that's a
some mana.
spicy one.
Maybe you can, if you have a vehicle, you could crew it multiple times.
Yeah,
with all your
everyone
creatures.
can get in the car. Everyone get in the car together.
Everybody get in the clown car and deal damage.
It might not be good enough, but it does seem like it's sort of interesting. It's a fairly cheap cost, and it's also important to note that this can help your deck hit planeswalkers.
No, it's lose
no,
life.
it's life.
Lose
I thought it
life.
was
so
damage.
you-
I
you-
lied.
Yeah, you
I
cannot
take it back.
hit
It's late.
planeswalkers.
I'm going to call that one just a brain fart for being tired.
You can
I'm
beat-
sorry, that was damage.
You can beat worship with it though.
You
because,
can be
yeah,
worship with it.
yeah.
That's
I
fair.
don't know.
So,
Got 'em.
darn.
If your opponent happens to have the worship invocation in their shield deck, you could beat them with this card.
This lets see the combo beat through Thalia,
Yeah,
right?
it does beat Thought or Manglehorn.
Or Manglehorn.
But I don't know if that's the way they want to beat
No.
through toughness creatures.
Not at all. But it is an option. It doesn't beat any ones that cause your opponents to gain life, though, right?
No. it does not.
Because they're always still just out of reach.
Yes. So close and yet
So
far.
But it is an interesting card. Is this something you could see? I think a lot of people have said elves, modern elves.
Yeah, I think
Could
that's
want
very
this card.
possible. Anything that just you tap all your things to Heritage Druid and then they take that damage.
You're look at that.
You could even tap all your creatures for what am I thinking of? For convoke for your
Chord?
for your
Yeah.
Chord of Calling.
Yeah, exactly. So
I don't
it's
know.
kind of interesting. We'll see if it ever breaks into those formats, but it's certainly a possibility.
Hey, it's a way that you can beat Amulet, right? Not Amulet. Lantern.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
That is very true.
And then the last artifact that we have is Watchers of the Dead,
Yeah.
which is our
It's-
colorless graveyard hate.
Pretty unexciting. It's a 2 generic for a 2/2 artifact creature cat. And you can exile Watchers of the Dead. Each opponent chooses 2 cards in his or her graveyard and exiles the rest. This is probably not what you're looking for because they'll just keep the things that are important.
Yeah.
But it does generally turn off Delirium, which is something to consider. So if Delirium were ever to get rampant again, this is the card where you can just have in play on 2, and then they're like, well, I'm going to cast Ishkanah. It's well, guess what I'm going to do in response? I'm going to exile. I'm going to stop you from having Delirium.
Yeah.
So, unexciting, but at least we have a few cards that interact with the graveyard.
Yeah, and that rounds out our artifacts. Not necessarily a whole lot, really, to talk about.
Yeah, you think for a set that has pyramids and stuff, yes, I get we're building a pyramid with literally one of the cards, but it feels like there'd be more. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was just gonna mention real quick. We didn't talk about this card. We don't need to talk about this card, but Gate to the Afterlife. It mentions a card that is not a card yet.
It's not in the set.
It's a card named God Pharaoh's Gift, so I'm assuming that'll be in the next set, along with
it's-
probably the
yeah,
Bolas Planeswalker
yeah.
that we've been waiting for.
So I heard the best thing that they could actually do is not print God Pharaoh's Gift because it doesn't exist.
Because there's no gift.
Because there's no gift. I'm Wizards. That you went deep. All right. So that's artifacts. Lands. We're almost done, guys. We're gonna make it through. So the first thing we get to do is the best thing that we get to do when we get really close to the end is talk about a whole cycle of lands, which all do the same thing. They're allied colored lands and they cycle. Are these lands good?
They're allied colored dual lands.
Dual lands and proper dual lands with basic land
The basic
subtypes.
land types, yeah.
And they all have names. Come on, guys. But these bicycle lands, some have
No.
have noted them.
Cut that. Cut that out. We're not calling them bicycle lands. Don't do that.
These dual lands that cycle. Are they good?
Yes, they're very good.
Yeah, correct.
They're just very good.
How do you say this card? The black-red one.
I think
Slow.
I think
Is it
it's slow. Yeah.
Slow or sloth?
I
It's
think
slow.
it's slow.
Slow.
Canyon slow.
Canyon slow. All right. Yeah, I mean these are all good. I think the blue ones are probably better than the other ones, just because
They have more.
Blue doesn't care as much about having the come and play tapped.
Yeah.
And then it also cares more about cycling.
It's important to know the red-green one is for the Valakut decks
Yep.
in Modern.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, they're just good. They're just good to have.
Yep.
So
Can't be upset about good dual lands. I do think that we still have like so many coming to play tap lands that are duels, and it really feels like that's unfortunate. I really want some like non coming to play tap lands, but alas, we are here.
yeah.
Next up for lands, we have Cradle of the Accursed.
And we're kind of sort of talk about these deserts, I think, sort of in conjunction.
Oh, yeah, I guess they're all deserts,
We got
right?
3 desert cards. So Cradle of the Accursed, they all tap to add a colorless. I guess we have 4. We're not talking about the one. It's like a Helix land. But so it's 3.
Oh man, that's a. Oh yeah, look at that. I didn't even notice that one was. A desert.
Yeah, it doesn't. The art doesn't look like a desert. It's all like colorful.
I thought it was just a. They printed this
like
card
a
in
Shimmering
there.
Grotto or something.
Yeah, Shimmering Grotto. I'm like, oh, it's back.
But Cradle of the Accursed has also 3 mana, 3 generic tap, sacrifice it, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token, activate this ability anytime you can cast sorcery. So it's kind of nifty. It's a land that turns into a creature. It's probably not going to do anything while we still have like actual creature lands in Standard. But utility is always something to look at. Grasping Dunes is our sort of like pseudo desert impersonation, and I mean the original desert. This one also adds a generic, and then you pay 1, sacrifice it, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature, and then again only do this as a sorcery. Now remember, they told us the original desert was too OP for this set, so everything has to be a sorcery. And then we get the one that David already referenced before, Sunscorched Desert, which when it enters the battlefield it deals 1 damage to target player and adds a generic. So
I think that one's the best one because
I think so too.
like 1 damage doesn't seem like a lot, but you can like
Play 4 of them.
you can play 4 of them. You can like ping planeswalkers. Like if a planeswalker is about to ultimate, you can like ping that down or like.
It's just like a weird way that decks that don't normally have like a little bit of reach suddenly do.
Yeah.
Which is important when you have like Eldrazi in the format.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Eldrazi, like this casting like Thought-Knot Seer, but also then like shooting them for 1 is kind of nice. And again, I think this is an actual win condition with Kefnet. That's just keep bouncing it and playing it and shoot it for 1.
I mean, your opponents would concede before they let you kill you.
No,
with the
assuming
desert.
no,
yeah.
I wouldn't let them. I would handcuff them to the table, but like you're going to take the 20.
For that win condition to work too, you also have to like never have 7 cards in your hand to actually attack with Kefnet. So it's just like somehow I'm activating this every turn and never having 7 cards.
Oh,
in
I
my
just
hand.
don't attack. I just decide not to.
I just choose not to.
Kefnet is very mindful.
But yeah, the it's cool to see Desert coming back. It's very flavorful for Amonkhet, and it's these are fine. Sunscorched Desert's the most playable. Everything else is kind of meh.
Yeah, I think like it's hard to say that these like lands are exciting in any fashion when we have still so many utility lands from like Battle for Zendikar. But it's important to remember these exist. Like the -1/-1 counter land is interesting in the very least. And like making a zombie land is also interesting. So there's always those random decks that can just sort of, like I said, like Eldrazi decks that can play colorless lands that it's kind of nice when they do other things. So, but yeah, that's Amonkhet.
That is Amonkhet. Overall, do you guys have any like final thoughts on the set?
I'm gonna play Drake Haven until I die.
Fair enough. Anything, Dave?
I like the set a lot. Like I said, I like the answer cards that they printed in it. I guess it remains to be seen. We'll see what happens with the ban restriction.
Yeah, I think like a lot of our opinions are very tentative about like what happens on Monday when they do their next ban and restricted list update. I think there are a lot of like really interesting things in Amonkhet. I think it's very like representative, very good top-down design. So I think it looks fun and interesting. I just want to see what is viable from the set.
I will say this. I think. If no bans happen, I think Saheeli gets better than it is now.
Yes,
because you just have
you get better lands.
Yeah, you have better lands. You have things that let you get a little bit more value out of your creatures. You have more answers to. I think this
Marty
set has a
vehicles.
lot of answers to Marty vehicles. A lot of cards that are good against Marty vehicles, and not necessarily a lot of cards that are good against the combo.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So say if Feldar Guardian gets banned, I think there's enough here to fight Martyr vehicles to make it an interesting format at least. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think to that point, one of the nice things I like is some of the cards we're most excited about are commons and uncommons in this set. And we've been so frustrated by like having super powerful cards that seem like they're breaking the format, but like the gods feel like some of the gods feel good, but I don't see a Gideon in this set or like a Hardy Kieran or you know what I mean. Like I think there's just good cards with solid answers, and that makes me hopeful. Power down a little bit and balance.
You kind of see that with some of the pre-order pricing that we've seen from some of the bigger retailers, where you don't really see like you have Gideon of the trials,
which is not a $50.
It's not a $50 card. Please don't pre-order at that card's price. It's not that expensive. But most of the other cards that you see are relatively reasonably priced if you needed them week one, like absolutely positively needed them week one. Which is a good sign. So we'll kind of see what happens on Monday and see if those prices shift, because they certainly might. But that's not why you're listening to us really anyway. So, but I think it'll be fun. I want to try limited. I think limited is going to be kind of interesting. There's a lot of instant speed stuff that's just going to blow you out. So so be prepared. But that is everything for our Amonkhet-PALOOZA. We, of course, want to give a shout-out to our lovely sponsors, Comic Town and BCW Supplies. You can find them both on Facebook by searching Comic Town Gaming Center or by searching BCW Supplies, respectively. You can also find us on Facebook by doing a quick search for At Your End Step. And while you're on there, give us a like. You can also find us on Twitter. We are Your End Step, so you can do a quick search for Your End Step and we'll come up. And then when you add us, it's At Your End Step. We also have a Gmail account, atyourendstep@gmail.com. And then there are multiple ways you can actually get the episodes. So you probably either got us from iTunes, or you got us from your Google Play Store, or even from MTGcast, which are all great places to download our show. If you did download our show from iTunes, please feel free to give us a review. Those definitely help us out with visibility and gets more people listening to our show, which we always appreciate. We do want to give one final note to our contest. It is, by the time this goes up, this will be your last chance to actually enter the contest on our Twitter. There's a pinned tweet on there. All you need to do is retweet that and then follow us on Twitter. And then we will actually be drawing the name on April 20th. And we'll be getting in contact with that person. Hopefully have a winner to announce on next week's show. Which is very, very exciting. So again, thank you so much to BCW Supplies, our lovely sponsor, who was able to give us some awesome things to give away to lovely listeners like yourself. But that is going to be everything for this very, very long, very, very extraneous Amonkhet set review. Thank you so much for listening. You have a great one. Bye.